we're just asking Canadians if they care about what happens in the U.S. election.
I'm going to have to say no because the president doesn't rule over Canada.
I think it does just because how close our relationships are.
Not really.
No?
Well, in the sense that we don't want idiots running the country down there.
Everything that the U.S. does, Canada has to follow, so it definitely affects it.
That's fair. How have you seen Canada and the U.S. relationship over the last 4 years with Biden in office? Do you think it's been hurting or do you think it's been thriving?
Hurting badly.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say necessarily because of Biden, but I mean, just the country's gone soft. You can't really do much. Everyone's too emotional.
Do you think there's one leader better than another for Canada?
Just not Trump.
Trump keeps saying that none of this stuff would be happening in the world if he was leader. And I believe about like 80% of it, to be honest.
He's had his time and he botched it, so.
Trump.
Trump?
I think he would do a better job, and I think all of the prices were less when he was in office before.
Fair. There are two perspectives. Of course, you heard both of them on a relationship with the United States. Policy and politics, I think, are the two things to talk about here. Now, while the perceived character of individual leaders is important, it is also their impact on foreign trade policy, I feel, that truly affects Canadians. So, what does our current relationship with the United States look like today, starting with at least trade? So, Anthony, I just want to touch on this with you. Were trade relations stronger under Trump or Biden?
I'd say they're stronger now because an unnecessary trade war wasn't started under Biden. But I do think that when it was started under the previous president, there were some things in there that should have been updated and renegotiated. So, yes, that did happen. We lost a bit of governing time. The federal government in our country did because of that. And it was just so abrupt and unnecessary. But
well, you say the word unnecessary, and Wyatt, I want to throw to you here just a little bit. When we use the word unnecessary, did Trump look at it more of an America first approach?
I think you have to look at it from the standpoint of it was purely politics. I mean, he was looking to make a statement in a lot of regards, and so he was thinking about it, well, how can I advance the America First message? And he thought that the way to do that was in the form of tariffs, and then, of course, Canada said not so fast. They imposed their own retaliatory
But Canada did have tariffs first on the United States.
Right, but it was just essentially proving the fact that because once Canada decided to impose the retaliatory tariffs, the United States were putting in place a tariff of, I think, 25% on steel, 10% on aluminum, and then they decided after Canada imposed the retaliatory tariffs, okay, we're just going to pull away our tariffs.
Now, just to play devil's advocate here, Trump did renegotiate the NAFTA agreement that actually made it more fair for Canada as well as it relates to Mexico manufacturing and labor, because when we have low wages in Mexico and we're producing everything there, it's not necessarily as good for Canada or the United States, especially when we're importing a lot from China through Mexico and then driving it up to the United States and Canada. Brittany, from that perspective, do you think Trump or Biden was more beneficial from Canada in bringing them more opportunity locally in North America?
Well, you know what? I'm not a policy expert here, but this is what I will say. You're right when it comes to NAFTA. I was working in Congress when that was happening. That was happening under Trump's term. Then we had the pandemic, and that kind of ruined things for a lot of people across the world. Obviously, I think that we're still probably recovering. Hopefully, mostly recovered. It's been a few years. But no, I mean, I'm not, I am a Republican and I was part of those processes, but regardless, I won't support Trump. So unfortunately, that's my answer is that I think one way or another that Trump is not going to be beneficial to the United States or to Canada.
Okay, fair point. Now, I just want to bring this up in relation to our climate goals. One thing I can confidently say, and I think we could all agree, is that because we have a liberal and a Democratic government, they get along quite nicely as it relates to climate goals. Typically, we see that as a party issue. I'm just curious, is that part of the reason why you guys think Canadians align so nicely, 64% of them align so nicely with the Biden or Harris campaign?
I think it's just based off of the fact that on every issue, I mean, it's hard to find an issue with the exception of maybe energy and the Keystone XL pipeline as an example where the United States and Canada don't agree. I mean, if you're looking at climate, sure, Donald Trump tried to pull out of the Paris Accords when President Biden became the president. He rejoined the Paris Accords and Canada very much welcomed. That was certainly one of the things when President Biden was elected. Prime Minister Trudeau in some of his first interviews was talking about how his greatest kind of hope now that President Biden is elected is that there's going to be a renewed sense of leadership on climate. So, I mean, yeah, I guess it's fair to say that. I mean, I don't know if it's the only issue.
Anthony, your point, I mean, we obviously know a lot of the stance people have in Canada on just climate initiatives. They feel like they can blame that for hurting them. Do you think we would align more nicely with a government in the United States that supports a more natural gas, oil, and just making energy prices a little cheaper in that front?
I think that the U.S. has been kind of lackluster on environmental initiatives, because if they were going to be smart about it, they would have what we have: a carbon tax, cap and trade, something like that. So as much as, yes, we're sort of aligned on the climate goals, what are they doing to achieve those climate goals? And I don't think they've stepped up as much as they should. They're a huge emitter in the world, and they should be doing more.
And is that why you think Canadians align more with a Biden-Harris campaign?
Probably, yeah.
Okay.
I'd say we're kind of, yeah.
So we'll jump into it a little bit further on Trump specifics and then Biden after that. We'll be right back.
I'ma rule the world, yeah.